Hi, I'm Jeff, the SP Spazz, and welcome to what I hope will be a series of videos designed to educate and entertain you. I was inspired to create this by a couple of guys who call themselves the NF Geeks, and so I decided to do the typical SP thing, which is to find something somebody else kind of created and make my own version of it, kind of put my own stamp on it. So that's the idea behind this. And I don't necessarily have the the equipment to make a real high-tech video with things like, I don't know, good lighting and good sound and anything that makes it look like it's actually has any production value at all. But that's not the point of this, so bear with me. This particular video I wanted to do as a response to the NF Geeks video called SP Discussion, because like with most things, I listened to it and it gave me a lot of ideas, and throughout the course of the videos that I watched that Mike and Dave, the NF Geeks, did, a lot of things would occur to me, and it seemed like it'd be really cool to have a discussion with them, but of course, in person, but I didn't know whether that would ever happen, and the whole video response thing came up, and I don't know, I just never kind of brought myself to do it until now, I guess. So I actually wrote down a few notes as far as what I wanted to respond to, because I kind of wanted to go through the things they said sort of briefly and kind of respond to each one. So they said, SPs are fun and spontaneous. I agree, not surprisingly. The funny thing to me, though, is that, and what I've learned about personality types over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, whenever I started first paying any attention to any of it, I've heard a lot of, or read a lot of descriptions where people talk about SPs live in the moment, and describe this as if this is like a foreign concept, or this is a trait of somebody. The thing that I guess I would most try to get across to non-SPs is that I don't know what it's like to not live in the moment. It seems like a very strange thing to say, that you would live in the moment. And the personality type stuff wasn't the first time I heard that kind of thing, because, growing up, and there would be songs and things on TV or movies where somebody kind of conveyed that message of, well, you should live in the moment instead of, whatever the alternative is. And I always was kind of puzzled by that, because, again, nobody ever had to tell me that. It was just kind of my natural way of being. So I still don't understand. I've asked people, and I asked on a couple of different personality forums, like, asked mostly N's, of course, because that's mostly who's on personality forums, but maybe a couple SJs on, to try to explain to me what this is like to not live in the moment. And some of them attempted to, and I think I can kind of get elements of it, but it's pretty hard to understand for me, because the way I look at it, it's like I wake up in the morning and I do something, and then in the next moment I do the next thing, and then so on and so on. That's just how life goes. You just live. And it's kind of odd to me that that's considered like a trait, or something to be distinguished from other people, because to me it's like, what else can you do but live in the moment? Anyway, so if the NF Geeks or anybody else sees this and thinks that they want to take a stab at explaining that to me, then I'm all ears, let's see. They also said something about generosity, SP generosity, and how SPs will always give and not ask for anything in return, which I agree with. They said not like SJs who will keep a tab or a scorecard or something like that. And I agree with that for the most part, but I would say that I don't think it's, at least in my case, that entirely that I don't notice if I give and never get anything in return. Like, I kind of do notice that after a while, and it does start to hurt my feelings a little bit if I feel like um, I don't get the same kind of, nobody that I've given to kind of feels the need to respond and do the same for me. And again, it's not like a scorecard or anything. It's definitely not anything that formal or anything where there's a certain percentage I'm expecting or a certain, a dollar amount of something or anything. It's nothing like that. But, if I'm taking somebody out to lunch, on a regular basis or something, and it's always, has to be me that's like, hey, let's go to lunch, and I'm paying for it, and let's go do this, and then the other person kind of never initiates that and never, is the one to be like, hey, let's go do this, or let's go see a movie or whatever it is. Then I do start to feel a little bit let down after a while by that person, and so I agree with the overall concept of, like, being generous and not expecting things in return. I don't, as a general rule. I just sort of have a general feeling of, it'd be cool if it's not always just me, and that's kind of, I guess, kind of how I've felt about friends that I've had as well. Is like, I feel like I shouldn't always have to be the one who calls them. That maybe they should call me sometimes. Maybe they should send me a message. Send me an email, contact me. It seems like I lose track of my friends a lot of the time, and I've always got to be the one that gets them back, and instead of them contacting me. And so sometimes I start to feel like, well, are they really true friends if they never feel like, they take the initiative to contact me, and be the one that kind of says, hey, Jeff, I'm thinking about you, let's do something. So anyway, I wanted to kind of point that out as just sort of a little twist on that idea. Um, I'm getting old, so I can't read as well as I used to. Have to look a little closer at my paper. But continuing on the theme about the giving things, Mike talked about SPs giving concrete things, like food and money and rides and things like that. And I think what that's about is, like, it's an overall kind of feeling of sharing in the enjoyment. That's like one of my biggest things is, if I know something cool, I discover something good, a good restaurant, a great movie, good music, a cool highway, whatever it is that I've come across, I want to share it with somebody, because to me it's cool to experience it by myself, and it's cool to kind of be the one, to kind of come across it myself, but it's even better if I could share that with somebody and somebody else enjoys it too. That's like, one of my biggest thrills is for somebody else to enjoy something that I enjoy and to kind of share in that with me. So, that to me is like what the essence of that is, it's not trying to, like, win points or anything, or have people be like, oh, you're so generous, or you've given me, and I mean, there's a part of it, I guess it is, like, the initial impact of a gift is a cool thing, because when you surprise somebody with something, or, something comes out of the blue, you kind of have that initial reaction that's cool to witness. If somebody kind of has a strong reaction to those kind of things, which not everybody does, but when you can kind of make that impact on somebody, I think that that in itself is pretty cool. But again, it's sort of like the main kind of essence of that is, like, life is to be enjoyed, and if you can share that with somebody else, then that's the best possible thing. And so, why, worry about um, little things like whether you can afford it? Because it's like, if you sit there and you think, well, I would do this, but, I need to save money for such and such in the future. And then the next day, you get hit by a bus and you die anyway. So what was the point of, trying to postpone something when you had the opportunity right in front of you to have a good time and to share a good time with somebody? So that's kind of the essence of that. They talked about SPs being individualistic. Yes, I think, to me, SPs are the ultimate individualists. And again, this is kind of sort of along the living in the moment thing. This is another thing that, probably we have a hard time understanding other people not being this way, because I hate groupthink. And when, the things that it's just like, well, we think this way or we believe this way just because a bunch of other people do. And especially, I guess, SJs are prone to be that. They're the most prone to peer pressure and kind of going along with the crowd and what's the in thing. But they're not the only ones. I mean, it can happen with NFs too, I think, with kind of movements, whether it be political or social movements or just, whatever it is. And then, with NTs, I guess a lot of times it's technology. They tend to be the ones that are like on the cutting edge of like the latest technology of everything and know what's coming out when and all that. I kind of lost my train of thought there, but yeah, going along with the crowd is like the antithesis of my instinct. Like, the more popular something is, and the more it's talked about and hyped, the less I want to do it. Because there's an instinct in me of always anti-conformity, not doing what the rest of the crowd is doing, trying to come up with something new or something different, or taking something and twisting it in some way. So I think that individualism might be, just a really good term for kind of the general way that I approach things. And again, it's kind of a little bit hard to understand why somebody wouldn't be, individualistic. And they also said something about SPs not caring about people getting hurt. I think that may be something where there's a little bit of a distinction between STPs and SFPs, because I think SFPs really do care about whether somebody's hurt. And not to say that all STPs don't care either, but they may not be quite as aware. I think with SFPs, which I probably not too much of a secret that I am one, that we do care, and I definitely have that emotional connection. Mike said we don't have empathy, and that's true. It's sympathy rather than empathy, and the difference between it, I guess, is empathy is like you really feel or like you're in the shoes of the person and feel what they feel. And sympathy rather is more like, you feel for them, but you're not going to like, be in their shoes and know exactly how they're feeling. And so that sympathy aspect, though, definitely comes into play in that I don't set out to hurt people. I don't try, I do try to think about, my actions and how they affect people, both positive and negative, and I aim for the positive all the time. Doesn't always succeed, but that's what I'm trying to do. And I disagree with one thing that Mike said about not being able to control our behavior in terms of hurting people. See, I don't think that's true, and I think we can learn, from what hurts people and try not to do it again. And I think maybe from an NF perspective, he kind of said it that way because NFs have a habit, and I'll get into this more in a future video, but a habit of kind of changing without really explaining that they've changed and expecting people to somehow understand that they're not the same as they were before. And if you do that, then you can't really get mad at somebody for hurting you in a way that you haven't been hurt before if something didn't used to affect you, but now suddenly it does. So there's some things like that that I think are kind of little nuances in that which we'll talk about maybe more along somewhere down the road. But speaking of roads, the other thing that they talked about was traveling on a whim and kind of taking off cross country and spontaneous trips and that sort of thing. I don't do as much of that as I used to now that I'm a father. I mean, I was a father before. It's been a while. My son's almost 13, but there was a time when he was a baby, where basically I could really like take off driving pretty much anywhere, and he would sleep for a lot of the trip. And so it was a little easier because, he didn't have obligations to get to and things like that. And so, if I worked during the week, but then I was off on Saturday, Saturday morning, I could just take off driving. I live in Texas, and I could just take off, into East Texas and just, drive for hours, listening to music, looking at scenery, stopping in cool places, stopping to eat at places I hadn't been before, things like that. And that's really, to me, like one of the awesomest things is to get on the highway and just drive with no idea where you're going. And I mean, I've driven enough around the area here that I start out always knowing where I'm going, but when I get to that point where I first don't know, where I'm taking down, going down that farm road, or that back road where I haven't been on it before and I don't know what it is that's coming down, that's kind of like the ultimate thing for me. So all right, well, gonna wrap up this first video, and I do plan to make more of them. Of course, as it goes with SPs, we sometimes plan things, and who knows if they ever get finished. But I wanted to finally at least do this one, and then hopefully there would be some in the future that where I can talk about more things and do more video responses to some of these other things, because I did want to respond, especially the most recent stuff with the ENFP discussion. I definitely had some thoughts on that I wanted to share too. So anyway, that's just some basic stuff, and I'll talk some more in the next one. And if you made it through all this, thanks for watching. Comment, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. And maybe sometime in the future I'll actually have a better camera, or stuff like that. But probably not anytime soon. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.